Because I'm expecting this video to reach a whole new audience, I'm going to start off by saying welcome to my channel. My name is Trista, and for the last 2.5 years, I've really been focusing on my creativity, and mostly my creativity while adventuring. So whether we were camping in a rented Dodge Grand Caravan out in Arizona or out in the mountains of Alberta, or whether we were road tripping across the UK, on the coast of England and Wales, or whether we were just camping where we live in Quebec, or whether I was flying out south to Guatemala, or traveling in my Prius C camper as well with my 6'2" boyfriend, or with my best friend. I have found this joy in the last 2.5 years in creating something out of my adventures, creating YouTube videos, and that's kind of been my thing. It's been what has brought me a lot of happiness and a chance, like I said, to express my creativity. If you're clicking on this video, you already know that I am pregnant, and I am currently 18 weeks as I speak. We are June 14th, 2023, and I haven't made any content in the last 3 months, I would say, at least. And the reason for this is because as much as I've always had this dream of being a mother, what I never really thought of is how my dream of YouTube would coincide with my dream of motherhood. And so I've been struggling to figure out how to show up online and to share my journey of becoming a mother, my journey from maiden to mother, while also sharing my adventures, while also being very sick in my first trimester. So it's been a struggle. But I am really craving that creativity. I'm starting to crave the adventure again as spring has rolled around and now summer is here. And so I am hopping back on the YouTube train, and I decided to release my first video in what feels like forever. I guess this is a little series I guess I can call Granola Girl to Granola Mom. And so today I am going to start by sharing my first trimester, a little recap of that. I recorded most of this at 10 weeks pregnant, and I wasn't gonna share it, and then I was watching other people's videos and I was super inspired, and I was like, wow, it's so nice to hear other people's experience in their first trimester, because mine was certainly tough. And then I thought, you know what, I should just share mine. So here we are, I'm sharing it. I hope you guys enjoy. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a comment, all that jazz. It really helps out the channel. And without further ado, I guess we will start with the first trimester recap. Obviously, week 0 to 2, you're not actually, it's considered part of pregnancy, but there's no baby actually in your stomach yet. Basically, day 1 of pregnancy starts on the first day of your last period. Then you ovulate 2 weeks later, and that's when baby is conceived. So for the first 2 weeks, baby's not actually there. It's just my egg, and that's it. So a couple of notes about my first 2 weeks. December, I miscarried. I said 2 weeks, but now we're going way back. December, I miscarried. I was heartbroken. I had been vegan for a really long time. And I was realizing that it was having some negative impacts on my health. I think the lighting just changed. I'm really sorry about that. But I'd been noticing that it was having some really bad impacts on my health, including my thyroid had just significantly crashed when I had went vegan. Also my iron had crashed. I was anemic for a long time. And I kind of started to link possibly the fact that I was vegan to maybe my miscarriages. And if there's any vegans watching this, they're probably gonna really hate on that. One of the things that I really liked that someone told me was that it seems like my body screams really loud when there's a problem. And so maybe somebody else who's vegan, there won't be problems for 15, 20, 25 years. But my body ended up giving me signals almost right away when I went vegan, and I just chose to ignore them. That is 100% what I believe was wrong, was a lot of my vegan diet as well as a few other lifestyle choices. I think that my body had been way too estrogen and cortisol like based, and that was affecting my progesterone and also the T4 in my body. I took a really like in-depth course about this, and that really helped me understand everything. So at that point in December when I took the course, because I was so down and I was just like desperate to understand what was happening and why I was miscarrying and why I was having so many problems with like my my cycle and everything. I'm getting a phone call. How can I help you? Yes. So I think I was talking about the vegan diet, a couple of other lifestyle changes that I was doing, and that I was taking an in-depth course about the thyroid. So that's when I started doing a lot of lifestyle changes, especially in January. Basically, in January, we didn't try at all for a baby. I think I was still like recuperating from the last miscarriage, and yeah, so I just took January off from that. I also started taking Vitex as soon as I miscarried the last one. So December and January I was taking Vitex, as well as February. So by the time I got pregnant, I had been eating meat for almost 2 months at that point, and I had been on Vitex for 2.5 months, I would say. So those two things I think are what really helped get my progesterone higher, and what really helped me be able to like keep the baby and have the baby stick and implant properly. I feel like that is a really important thing to mention about the first 2 weeks of my pregnancy. I also stopped doing any form of high intensity workouts, so no CrossFit, no like intense gym workouts. I would really just stick to weightlifting, never getting too out of breath, no running. That was a big part also to just bring down the cortisol in the body. Yeah, so that was basically my week 0 to 1 and 1 to 2. So the 2 first weeks of my pregnancy. And the reason why I'm doing 0 to 1, 1 to 2 is just because I find it gets confusing if not. So bear with me. So then week 2 happens, which is conception. And then so week 2 to 3, I've learned now, since this is like my 3rd pregnancy, I've learned to kind of tell what the symptoms are for me particularly that show that I'm pregnant. And so the first one is actually how hungry I am. I get so hungry. Like I could eat so much. I remember that week I went to a breakfast restaurant and I got like eggs, bacon, sausage, potatoes. I also got like a full crepe with apples and caramel and cheese in it, and probably a drink too, and I ate all of it. Like I was so hungry. As well as hot flashes. That's also a huge symptom, I guess, for me of pregnancy, is that like that's the earliest one. Like almost as soon as the baby's conceived, I start getting hot flashes, and I've just recognized that over the last 3 pregnancies. And then the other one, this one was kind of new this time, but I was so thirsty, and it felt like if I didn't drink water when I was thirsty, I would die. So I always had to have like a huge water bottle with me at all times. Those were kind of like my biggest symptoms from week 2 to 3. Keep in mind, at this point, I don't know yet that I'm pregnant. Then there was week 3 to 4. I'm not somebody who's patient with waiting to take a pregnancy test. So I actually got a positive pregnancy test 9 days after ovulation, so within my 3 to 4 week. So that was obviously a big sign that I was pregnant. And then I was taking pregnancy tests every day. I wanted to take it every day until I reached 5 weeks, because I got the value pack on Amazon. I'll put that in the description, because if you do get those, it just saves like a ton of money. You get, I think, 20 tests for something like $13 Canadian or something like that, instead of paying $20 for one test at the pharmacy. Highly recommend those. I had like 2 boxes, so I was just like taking them every day, and the lines were getting darker and darker, and that really made me feel a lot better. Even just the fact that the lines were so dark, that really reassured me a lot. So yeah, week 2 to 3, positive pregnancy tests. Also my boobs started to hurt. They were like so sore. I will talk more about this in a second, but I had the sore boobs and I also had cramping. So the cramping feels like period cramps, feels like you're waiting for your period. But because I had the positive pregnancy test, I knew that I was pregnant. So what I wanted to say about the sore boobs part is that I was on Vitex, like I said, and Vitex hasn't been thoroughly studied during pregnancy, so it's actually not recommended to take it during pregnancy, but it's also not recommended to just stop immediately once you get pregnant if you've had miscarriages in the past and you were taking it for that reason. So originally my plan was to wean off of it over the whole first trimester. So I was going to stay on it consistently until 5 weeks, and then I was going to remove 1 pill or 1 day of the pill being vitex, until the 12th week. Because between 5 and 12th week, there's 7 weeks. So the first week I would just take off like the Saturday. The second week I do Friday, Saturday, or maybe Wednesday, Saturday to even it out a little. And then the third week I would do like Monday, Wednesday, Friday. That was my plan. However, once I did start weaning off of it, this was at 5 weeks, I noticed that the days I didn't take the vitex pill, my boobs stopped hurting as much. And so I think that the intense pain I was feeling, like it felt like rocks were like hanging off my body at all times and were like ready to rip off my body. I think that intense pain I was feeling was possibly because of the vitex. So I actually ended up weaning off at 5 weeks, but I'll talk more about that at the 5 week mark. Week 4 to 5, the same things continued, the sore boobs and the cramping basically. And besides that, I felt completely normal. And I was also very anxious though, because my first miscarriage was at 5 weeks and 2 days, and my second miscarriage was at 4 weeks and 2 days. So this time frame for me was insanely stressful. I was constantly worried about spotting. I was worried that I would get the sharp pains again in my stomach. So the difference I would say between the cramping is that this time it felt more like a period cramp, whereas in my last miscarriages, it was like a stabbing pain 24/7. So it wasn't just like a one-shot thing, because I still get that from time to time. But yeah, it was more like a stabbing pain all the time. And I feel like that was more of a sign of miscarriage versus, for me anyways, versus the cramping that I was getting now, which was more like pressure, I would say. Doctor also explained it as stretching, like your ligaments are stretching. So that's more what I felt now, as opposed to like an intense stabbing pain. So week 5 to 6, it was actually crazy, because the second I officially hit 5 weeks, like I completed my 5 weeks, my cramping went away. And I was like, oh, finally, because that was such like a nervous feeling, like it just made me nervous. But that is also the same day that I started to get food aversions. So that was not fun. I would honestly say at this point, the food aversions and the nausea is the worst part of pregnancy. Food aversions, and I was starting to get really tired, like the fatigue started settling in. I would say that I wasn't nauseous, like super nauseous per se at this point, but the food aversions started and I was starting to get nauseous. It was like the beginning. So like I said, I had miscarried at 4 weeks, 2 days and at 5 weeks, 2 days. And so on my calendar, I had the day marked where I would hit 5 weeks and 1 day. And I had told myself that if I hadn't started spotting by then, I was in the clear. And I was like so excited, because at 5 weeks, I hadn't started spotting. Like there was nothing that was indicating that anything would happen. So by 5 weeks, I was kind of like, I'm in the clear. Like by tomorrow, if there's nothing, like I think I'm good and stuff. But lo and behold, the 5 week mark hit. I was starting my food aversions. The cramps went away. The fatigue came, but also I had my first day of spotting. So obviously no one wants to like wipe and see blood when they have had miscarriages in the past. It's the most unsettling feeling. But what I can say now that I've passed it is that it lasted for 1 week. In that week, I had 5 days of spotting. So I think I had 1 day of spotting, 1 day of not, then 2 days of spotting, then 1 day of not, and then 2 days of spotting, and then it went away. And I would say that the difference for me, and I know that this is very controversial because I've actually read the opposite online, and I've read the opposite from other people who have experienced this. But for me, in both of my miscarriages, both times, the blood started off brown, which normally they say is old blood, so it's not a big deal. But both of my miscarriages started off with brown blood and then slowly turned bright red. And then the flow increased over, I think the first one was over a week or 2, and the second one was over like 3 days. One of the kind of reassuring sides of this was that it didn't start off brown. It was actually a very light pink, which online says is more worrisome, but for me, it was less worrisome and less of a problem. So it started off pink, and it was like a little red at some points, but always like on the very light end, and it never got darker. The flow never increased. It was like very minimum, and it was often when I was trying to go to the bathroom to push out a poop. So that might have been what was like causing, like, because I was like pushing, maybe like there was a bit of blood. That might be what it was. I don't know, but it went away, and I haven't had any spotting since. I think I had maybe 1 day where I felt like it was maybe a little bit like off the color, but nothing else. So I don't know. And I've already seen baby now, so I'm not worried anymore. But yeah, so I just want to share that because It is very common to bleed or have spotting at some point during pregnancy. And it is so scary when you've had miscarriages in the past, but thankfully this time I was in the clear and I'm very grateful for that. So then my 6th week came and went. So now we're at 6 to 7 weeks. And at this point, the nausea started for real and the fatigue came in hard. But it still wasn't the peak of it. The following week, week 7 to 8, the nausea kept going and the fatigue. And at this point, I was honestly experiencing what I think was like prenatal depression. I was crying so much because I just felt so like lonely and like I couldn't cook and I couldn't like do anything because I was constantly nauseous and like I just wasn't doing well. I wasn't spending much time outside. I would be hungry but too nauseous to cook things. I was alone most of the day, so like I felt very isolated and alone, and it was like really terrible. And I think I was just saying that was week 7 to 8. Week 8 to 9 I think was one of the worst. Like I would say end of week 7 to beginning, like once I turned 8 weeks, like a little bit after the 8th week was probably around the worst time. And I even remember I texted Jeremy at one point and I was like, okay, we need to figure this out. We need to have a talk because like I'm feeling so depressed. So I don't know if that's like a mood swing or if it's prenatal depression or what it was, but it was really intense. And I think it was just this feeling of like helplessness because of the nausea and the fatigue, and just like because I can't like do as much, I guess now, and also the isolation and everything. So yeah, that was really hard. That was probably one of the hardest parts of pregnancy so far as well. I'm glad to say that now it's been getting much better, especially as the nausea goes away and stuff. Thankfully, my symptoms peaked really, really early in pregnancy. Like if they peaked by the end of week 7, I think that's great because usually it peaks around like week 9 or 10. So yeah, I was thankful that it peaked and now it's done. I am actually going to make a series. I started filming it about like the little things I would do every day to kind of get myself out of that like feeling of like depression and isolation and like just sadness and helplessness. So keep an eye out for that because that will be like a little series I'd like to share. Then by week 9, the nausea had decreased a lot. Like I would get nauseous sometimes, but like very rarely, and it wouldn't last very long. So that was so nice. Like I had been waiting for that for, it felt like forever, even though it was just a few weeks. But then suddenly my cramping did start coming back for like a few days, which made me nervous again. But it ended up going away after I think 2 or 3 days. So that was fine. My boobs not sore anymore. Like that went down as well. I would say that I'm not feeling depressed anymore. Like I'm feeling fine again. So I think it was just like the fatigue and the nausea that was really just driving me over the edge. So all of my symptoms started to decrease over last week, so like week 9 to 10. Yeah, so that kind of made me nervous at first. I was like, why am I not experiencing as many of my symptoms? Like why are they decreasing all of a sudden? I thought I was supposed to peak at this point. But I did go to my doctor's appointment that week, and we actually did get to see the baby because we did like an ultrasound that connects to the phone instead of like a real ultrasound, which I will do at 12 weeks. So I actually got to see baby, I got to see the heartbeat, I got to see baby like wiggling around. Apparently it moves a lot. The doctor knows that I've miscarried twice in the past. So when she put the ultrasound thing, the machine on my belly, she saw the baby and she was like, well, that baby is very alive, because it was just moving so much. So that was really nice to see. It was very reassuring. So I think it's okay that my symptoms are decreasing because baby is doing great. And then I had some blood tests this morning for like all of the stuff for Down syndrome and my thyroid and everything, like the iron and every disease I feel like you could think of, and urine samples and all that. That was all done this morning. So I feel like that's gonna go well. And then next week I have my midwife appointment. The week after that I have my appointment for like the proper ultrasound where you can see if there's any like problems with the baby, but you also get like the dating scan to get a more accurate due date. As of right now, I had it marked as November 19th. They're saying November 20th, but we'll see a more accurate like timeline once we do the ultrasound. And then I have another appointment with my doctor if I end up seeing her again. I'm not sure if I will because of the midwife center, but I have another appointment set for the end of May. Now I finished 10 weeks. So I got to 10 weeks on Sunday. We are currently Tuesday, and I'm feeling really good, a lot better. Like all of my symptoms are basically gone. I still only eat like little meals at a time, but like my nausea is mostly gone. So yeah, one thing I would say is that I am getting more acne, but I don't think it's because of the pregnancy per se. I think it's because I've been eating so much more processed food and like sugary foods and stuff because I haven't been able to cook for myself over the last few weeks because of the nausea and the fatigue and all. So I think that's a big reason for this. I'm going to really try in the second trimester to start like going back to whole foods and cooking for myself and all that stuff. Jeremy's been amazing. He's cooked me a lot of amazing foods and all, but he also does work like 50 hours a week, sometimes 60 hours. So yeah, it'll be nice to start picking things back up at home a little. But yeah, so that is my first trimester recap. Probably feels like a lot since I just announced that I'm pregnant online and gave you a whole 10 to almost 11 week recap of what's been going on. But yeah, I'm back. If you guys have any questions about why I took 2 or 3 months off, what was going through my head, if you have any pregnancy related questions, whatever it may be, you can leave them in the comment section below. Hello guys, welcome to my office slash Jeremy's office slash where Jeremy draws. Today I am 17 weeks and 6 days, so tomorrow I will be 18 weeks. And I just thought I would come on here to kind of give you guys like an update on the last few weeks of my first trimester, since I feel like that is pretty important in order to wrap up this video. So basically where I left you guys was at my 10-week mark. At the time, my week switched on Sundays, but after that, on my 12-week scan, I actually found out that I was further ahead than I thought. So my weeks now change on Thursdays. So at that point, I was actually 10 weeks and 3 days. So, or approximately that. What happened after that, I got my blood test results back. I found out my TSH, if any of you guys know anything about hypothyroid and everything, my thyroid stimulating hormone was really, really elevated, which means my thyroid kind of crashed again, which is to be expected in pregnancy, but mine was like a very extreme case, I'll say. So my TSH was at 45. Normally you want it under 2.5. Prior to pregnancy, I was about at 0.4 to 0.7. 0.4 to 0.7 all the way to 45 in a matter of 9 weeks is a very drastic change. So anyways, I went on a different dose of thyroid medication and that really helped. I think that's what might have as well impacted how tired I was and the depressed feeling I was feeling for most of my first trimester. Then I had my first real scan. So the one that I talked about, that was on the phone. So I didn't see a very, very clear image. I could just see the baby's heartbeat and see that everything was okay with the baby. So then the first real ultrasound that I had was at about 12 weeks. Interestingly enough, it was on my dad's 1-year anniversary, or like 1 year since he passed. Baby was looking healthy, everything was good. It's very wow seeing your baby for the first time. And they were actually able to tell us the gender with a 75% accuracy. So I actually know right now if it's a boy or if it's a girl, and that will be reconfirmed in about a month at my 20-week appointment. That will actually be at 22 weeks. So yeah, and that kind of closes the first trimester recap. My last couple of weeks of pregnancy were pretty smooth. My symptoms kind of disappeared. I haven't really had many symptoms throughout my second trimester, although I have had a few. So I will keep those for the next video. So that's it. My first trimester has come and gone. Second trimester, I'm already at 18 weeks, so I don't know, it's going faster than I thought it would. Thank you guys so much for being here. I will be out with another video. I'm thinking of doing vlogs and not really sure if I'm gonna have a regular posting schedule yet, because I still don't know what exactly I want to put out there since I've done such a huge switch in like my niche and the content I'm creating. So I'm still trying to figure that out, but I will be back with a video soon, so don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, all that jazz. And once again, thank you for watching. I will see you very soon. Bye everyone.